Hello and welcome back to the Ain't Dead Yet podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by our official sponsor, Sun Life Organics. Love, heal, and inspire. Sun Life Organics is a juice bar that has locations all across the United States, providing only the highest quality organic ingredients. I love it. Personally, I go just about every day. My favorite smoothie is the Holy Cow. It's packed with 50 grams of protein, and it always helps me recover. Go find one near you. Another official sponsor of today's podcast is Noble Origins. Noble is a grass-fed beef protein complex, utilizing everything in the cow from nose to tail. It's personally my favorite protein. I like the vanilla the best. I like to mix it with raw milk. That is my favorite combination, but the chocolate is also amazing. I also had mentioned with additional sponsor, Sun Life Organics, that they have a shake smoothie called the Holy Cow. They also utilize Noble protein in order to hit that 50 grams in that shake. So again, go order it. Check them out, nobleorigins.com. Use code ADY for 15% off. Love y'all. Hello and welcome back to the Ain't Dead Yet podcast. Today's episode is going to be a little bit of a different one. I can't honestly say that I'm excited to be here and have this conversation or discuss this topic, but I think it's absolutely necessary. And this isn't anything new or earth-shattering as far as today's society goes. This is something that's been happening for quite a long time, and it's continuing to happen. And I think it's just important that we take a minute and address what we can on the topic, and hopefully connect with people out there that might be either A, going through this, or B, doing this, because both sides are real and both sides are relevant and both sides can make an impact. And the topic today is going to be on bullying. I probably have a very unique perspective on this, and I understand that. And I'm sure my comments will be slammed with people saying that my opinion or views on it are directly correlated to unresolved trauma, and that's fine. I'll take that judgment. I'm totally willing to accept that, as long as this message gets out and hopefully, like I said, helps somebody. As I think about the topic of bullying, and in full transparency, to actually work through it, I have to first off admit that I've been on both sides of that coin. I think that the majority of people have probably experienced both sides of that coin on some level. I think that there's very specific and definite things that happen on both sides of that bullying journey that change your perspective or don't. And for me, my perspective shift happened at a young age. So to run it back in time, or before I even get into that, the reason this is coming up is because I'm sick and tired of seeing people choose to end their life because of this. And I'm not sick and tired of those people. I'm sick and tired of it happening and creating these voids within people where they feel like they have to do that, or that's the route that they're going to take. And to be completely transparent with you, like I understand where they're coming from to make that decision and that choice. So it's just a hard thing to talk about, but we're going to do our best. Also for this episode, if it gets emotional or I get fired up, there's a good chance that there'll be some vulgarity flying out of my mouth. And so if that's not your thing, it's probably a good time to tune out too. But here we go. So part one, bullying in my mind, in my journey. My first recollection of any of this would have been probably third or fourth grade. And very specific story. But I'll never forget it. And my mom's probably going to be pissed that I'm telling this story because it does involve her. But I know that from her perspective and her seat, if it's going to help somebody, she's fine with it. And I'm pretty sure the statute of limitations is up anyways. That's been, oh God, I don't even want to tell you, over 20 years ago though. So third or fourth grade, I was in an after-school care program. And in this program, there was kids from first grade to fifth grade. And every kid that was in the program, when it was their birthday, we would have these big poster cards they would pass around. And people would sign like, happy birthday, so-and-so, like, we love you, have a great day, whatever. And for me, I always enjoyed that. I thought it was super cool. There was part of me that was probably pissed off because my birthday was in the summer, though, and I knew I wasn't going to get a card. That's part one. So there's probably some immediate, projection tied in that. Part two was, and this is probably the more important part, there was a girl who was a grade older than me. So if I was third grade, she was fourth grade, who I had a crush on. And I remember, like, at that age, at that point in time, you'd, like, ask a girl out, which meant literally nothing. It meant you probably said hi to them at school. Nothing much more than that. But I remembered I asked this girl out, and she said no. Okay. And it was a couple days later, one of my buddies asked her out, and she said yes. And I was like, damn. So first heartbreak, or I thought that was a heartbreak, but completely wrong. Anyways, her birthday came up like shortly after that, and they were passing this poster card around, and everyone was signing it. And I got this bright idea of, like, I'm going to sign it last, and I'm going to leave a message on this card that's hurtful. And so I waited till everyone signed this big poster card, and at the very end of it, I wrote across, like, the whole thing. I just put, "You are stupid," and folded it up and handed it in, and no one opened it up until we sang her happy birthday, and she opened up this card and saw across the whole thing, "You are stupid," which obviously hurt her feelings. I didn't sign it. So, I guess I wouldn't have really ever had to admit that it was me, but I remember the teacher asking in that moment, who did this? And it was me. So I raised my hand, I owned up to it. Doesn't make it right, doesn't make it better, but that's what happened. And I'm only telling this story because of what transpired next and the shift that happened in my life. So my mom came to pick me up that day from after school care, and they told her what happened. And, raised by a single mom, you learn really quick and early on that with females, especially if they're quiet, that shit ain't good. That shit ain't good. So the whole way home, she doesn't say a word. I'm sitting in the car. I'm like, damn, this shit ain't good. So we get home. She walks in the door, goes to the kitchen. I follow her through the door. And I said something to the effect of, like, what's going on? And, I played football at a high level, Division I, and I've never seen anyone to this day turn a corner as fast as she did that day. I mean, she turned the corner out of the kitchen and took me down. And again, Mom, can't get in trouble for this because I would never press charges. But she kicked my ass. Like, it wasn't like she didn't spank me. She kicked my ass. And I remember, I've had my ass kicked a few times in my life, but that was the worst ass kicking I've ever gotten. And I remember being like, holy shit, like, what just happened? Why this, why that? And I remember her just being like, when you step out of this house, you're a representative of me. And if you're hurting people, that represents me. And we don't hurt people. We help people. And, I still remember that conversation. And I was, like I said, I was just a kid. So that's part one. And that's why I want to talk about why parenting is so important. I'm not saying she handled that the right way. I'm not saying she handled that the wrong way. I am saying that, to the best of my knowledge and recollection, I never bullied again after that. And it would show back up numerous times in my life where I had the opportunity to help people versus hurt them. And that still happens today. And I feel like that's part of the reason I'm here right now doing this podcast, and every other episode is the goal is to help people. When you've been on the hurt side of things, you don't want anyone else to feel or experience that hurt if you can help them. And so I think that's a big driving force for me and a lot of people that are out here being vulnerable and telling their stories. But either way, the flip side of that coin would happen in high school. And I think I've probably talked about this on this show. I'm pretty sure I had an episode with, we talked about bullying with Tony Reyes. So if you want to watch an episode on bullying or how that came up, that's a good episode on it. It's with Tony Reyes. It's one of the earlier episodes. I can't remember if it's like episode 2 or episode 6. It's somewhere in that range. But we talk about bullying, and we talk about these shifts that took place in our lives. And for me, from the time I was in that 3rd grade spot until, now, the goal has been to help folks. But in high school, this came to a head in a big way. Today's episode is brought to you by our official sponsor, Sun Life Organics. Love, heal, and inspire. Sun Life Organics is a juice bar that has locations all across the United States, providing only the highest quality organic ingredients. I love it. Personally, I go just about every day. My favorite smoothie is the Holy Cow. It's packed with 50 grams of protein, and it always helps me recover. Go find one near you. Another official sponsor of today's podcast is Noble Origins. Noble is a grass-fed beef protein complex, utilizing everything in the cow from nose to tail. It's personally my favorite protein. I like the vanilla the best. I like to mix it with raw milk. That is my favorite combination, but the chocolate is also amazing. I also had mentioned with additional sponsor, Sun Life Organics, that they have a shake smoothie called the Holy Cow. They also utilize Noble protein in order to hit that 50 grams in that shake. So again, go order it. Check them out, nobleorigins.com. Use code ADY for 15% off. Love y'all. There was a girl. It's funny how it seems like most of these stories start that way. There was a girl. This one was strictly platonic, though. There was wasn't asking her out. There was none of that. She was dating a guy who was on the same team as me, high school football. And he broke up with her for whatever reason, right? At that age, who knows? That wasn't the issue. The issue was what he said to her. And she called me and told me after the breakup, she's like, hey, this is what happened. This is what he said. And what I was told he had said was that, hey, why don't you go kill yourself like your mom did? And I'm getting the hair stand up on the back of my neck right now, even thinking about this. So I remember when she told me that, the only solution that I had at that point in time, which, again, I'm not saying this is right, I'm not saying this is wrong, but the solution that I had was like, well, he's going to get dealt with like I got dealt with when I was in 3rd grade. He's going to get his ass kicked. So I went home. I told my mom what happened. You can probably guess what she had to say about it. I'm pretty sure there was an expectation that I dealt with it. And those of you that have heard me talk about my dad on this show, I called him as well. And same kind of thing. He's like, no, we protect those that can't protect themselves is what we do, which was wild advice to get from someone like him. But either way, go to school the next day, and he was a grade or 2 grades older than me. Either way, he had a class ring. I remember that vividly because everyone in school had already talked about it. This fight's going to happen. This is going to go down. Main lobby before first bell. And, I confronted him. He pushed me. I pushed him back. And as soon as I pushed him back, he swung and hit me. And then I remember nothing. I completely blacked out in rage. And it's the only time in my life this has ever happened. But blacked out in a rage. When I came to from that adrenaline high, like came back to my wits, I remember I was sitting in the principal's office, and I looked at my hands, there's blood all over my hands, and just was like, what the fuck? Like, holy shit, what happened? And I threw up immediately from the come down, from the adrenaline. And I remember looking off to the side and seeing a stretcher roll down the hallway. And I was like, oh shit, this ain't good. But they asked me what happened, and I told them right away what happened and why I did what I did. And, they didn't give me a pass. They didn't say it was right, but they I think they understood on some level. But before, the dust even settled, they were talking about like felonious assault charges. Like, I'm 13, 14 years old. Like, I'm like, damn, like I've screwed up pretty bad here. Dealt with this the wrong way. Long story short, mom comes and picks me up from school. We go home. I don't get in any trouble. I'm pretty sure my mom, we had to go to the emergency room because blood was everywhere and they wanted to make sure like they had to get everyone checked out. But after that, we went to lunch. I'm pretty sure we went to Shakers, which is a spot in Roanoke, Virginia. Still one of my favorites when I go home. And then I'm pretty sure we got ice cream. And then we went home and I was suspended for the rest of the week. But that was kind of the end of it. We didn't really talk a whole lot about it. And the reason I'm telling the two sides of those stories is, one, I'm sure that there's a much better way to handle bullies. I just wasn't taught that at that age. And, you know, when I weigh it in my mind, I'm like, who's accountable? Is it the kid, the 8-year-old, the 9-year-old, the 10-year-old, the 11-year-old, or is it the parent? And that's a tough question to answer because my mom raised me the best she could, and I still went to school and after school care and bullied that girl. But what I will say is, as soon as she found out about it, she dealt with it. The problem is, what if they don't find out about it until it's too late? Something happens. So I do think there's a place or a space where a parent can do the absolute best they can to prevent their child from bullying, and it still happen, and something bad happened from that. But I do think the best prevention for bullying starts at home with the parent, and with the parent kind of instilling the right values and morals and lessons in their children. I feel like that's a great place to start. And like I said, I'm not saying it's always the parent's fault. It's always the kid's fault. I think it can happen for so many different reasons. I just think that's a good place to start. The other reason I say it that way is because over the last years, I've gone home and got to know a lot of these kids and talked to them. They kind of, most of the stories, full transparency, that I've heard from them is like, there's some wild shit happening at home. Whether that's abusive parents, addiction, alcoholism in the house. These kids are growing up. I hate to say this, but I think maybe a little rougher than my generation did, in a different way. The other big factor nowadays is technology. The bullying that's occurring via technology is a problem. And I'm not sure I have a solution to that, because the technology is not going to stop. You know, there's plenty of parents out there like, oh, the kids don't have a cell phone or they can't have social media until they leave the house. They're 18. But for the most part, these kids are, I've seen, 8, 9, 10 years old rolling around with an iPhone, or 12, 13, 14, they're on social media, which doesn't just present an issue from a bullying perspective. It also presents an issue from like a predatory perspective. And I've been seeing them stories all over the place too, like especially back home, these daycare facilities, like all kinds of shit like that. So it's like, I don't know what's happening or what's transpiring, but maybe it's just more visual because of technology nowadays, but it's like, it's not good. So I think something does need to be done about it. And this is probably where I'll lose a lot of people, but like, I really think that, exclude the predatory, like molestation conversation for a second. I'll get back to that. Let me stick to the bullying. I'm not sure how we can educate children and families enough and appropriately on really the depths and the impacts of this. We'll call it an epidemic. Like, it's a problem. in order to prevent things from getting to where things get to oftentimes, which is kids taking their own life. This happens in adulthood too, but you know, we're talking about children, man. We're talking about little kids. And it's hard for me to even digest or like work through my brain that that's happening, but it is. You see it on the news, you see it in the paper, it's all over the internet. And I don't have the perfect solution. I just know what worked in my life. And this is kind of a call to action. Like, let's open up the floor and talk about how we actually fix this shit. I don't want to talk about why I'm wrong, why you're wrong, why they're wrong. I want to know how we fix this shit. Because I'm sick and tired of watching kids think that, like, that's their option, that's their way out. And is it a way out? Sure. But it's not the way how we should be, dealing with, if you will. So that's where I'm at with the bullying. Now, as far as the predatory stuff and the molestation stuff, again, might lose you with this, but like, there's only one solution to that. I think we kill those people. You're gonna take advantage of a child like that, like you can go ahead and die. Who needs you? I don't think there's second chances with that type of shit. Like, you're sick. You can go. And I'll leave it at that. Point blank, period. So, again, the call to action is, how do we address this issue? How do we solve it? How do we help people? How do we fix it? And I think what it's going to take is more people coming to the forefront on both sides and saying, this is what I've done in the past, and this is why I did it. There's depths to bullying. Again, a lot of it comes back to what's happening at home. I'm not saying in every case, but a lot of it. Like, a younger sibling might be a bully because their older siblings bully them, or what they see their parents interact, or how they see their parents interact, or how they see their parents engage with one another, or other families. Most of the time, I think it's a learned behavior. It's also an issue if, you go to school and you feel cool because people laugh when you make fun of somebody. And so obviously, if that gives you a dopamine hit as a kid, you're going to continue to do that. You're going to continue to chase that route. And again, the technology plays a piece, because I think people think they can get away with more shit from behind a keyboard or a screen. And that's true. You can. Because the majority of the bullying that takes place through technology, those people don't have to really come face to face with others in the same way. Whereas, like, if I walk down the street and someone bullies me, I'm going to check them, right? Or like, if I see someone getting bullied or made fun of, like, I'm going to check the person doing the bullying. Rarely are you seeing that on the computers, right? People are laughing at people's pain. Like, to me, that's just the most fucked up shit ever. Like, who gets off on that? Like, we got enough shit to carry around without that happening. Enough people are in pain without that happening. Enough people are suffering without that happening. So it's like, how have we gotten to this place? And what can we do moving forward? And honestly, I'm open to any solutions. Whatever's worked or whatever's working, that's great. I know there's foundations that are all about anti-bullying, and they're doing work in the school systems. I'd be interested to know if this is as common or less common in private schools versus public schools, if it's more common in certain regions of the United States, if there's a correlation with a level of education and the amount of bullying taking place. Like, it's been a call to action to me to do more studying, and I've been reading on it, and I've been looking into it, and I've learned a lot. But there's people out there that are way smarter than me that have to have better solutions and are willing to take action on this, because there's not a single reason in my head, or one that you can convince me of why bullying should be taking place on a level that causes a 9, 10, 11-year-old to take their own life. And if that is happening, we need to call an all stop, and we need to fix that shit right now. And that's why I'm here today, and that's what I wanted to talk about. So I hope any of that made any sense. And the last call to action is, if you're listening to this and you're being bullied, DM me at ADYATX, or you can do my personal handle. That's fine too, at @TripIson_. Let me know. And if there's anything I can do about it, I'll do it. I'll do whatever it takes to stop it from happening. If you're out there and you're doing the bullying, I beg you to stop. Because guess what? Someone takes their life because you're being a bully. It's on your head, bro or girl. You got to ride with that the rest of your life. And honestly, I don't want to see you go through that pain either. So again, if you're out there and you're getting bullied, reach out. I'll do anything I can through my network of resources to support you, to help you, to deal with your situation. And if you're out there and you're doing the bullying and you don't know how to stop, you can reach out and I'll try to help you do that too. Point being, this isn't something we need to carry into the next generation. There's a lot of shit that's great about this generation and what we're doing and how we're growing and how we're improving on all these different levels. But this isn't something that needs to continue to the next generation. This shit needs to stop. So I'm going to leave it at that. It's a short one today, but I appreciate your time. We wanted to come in and do this one off the cuff, essentially, because we want to get it out as soon as possible. And again, the call to action is help, not hurt. Find someone to help. And if you see someone getting hurt, help them. If you're being bullied, reach out. If you're afraid to reach out to your teachers, your parents, whoever, they'll make fun of you too. Like I said, hop in my DMs. I'll show up. If you're being a bully, stop. Shit ain't cool. That's where we're at with it today. I appreciate your time and I appreciate your attention. Leave comments, please, under this post if you have solutions. Again, I'm fully aware that mine probably aren't the most intelligent or aren't from the best place. It's just what I know and it's just what I've seen. But we need all hands on deck on this one. So put your hands in the game. That's going to do it for today's episode of the Ain't Dead Yet podcast. Thanks and have a great day.